The sky was always heavy, and the sound of falling water never stopped. On this world, rain was not a visitor. It was a ruler. Every morning began with drops sliding down the windows, and every night ended with rivers running past the shelters. For Ryan, a human settler, this endless rain was both strange and beautiful. He often stood outside, wearing a thick coat, staring up at the sky. The air was cool, the clouds thick, and the drops struck his skin like tiny beads. At first, he thought he would get used to it quickly. But weeks turned into months, and still, he felt the rain pressing on his heart. Ryan was not born here. He had traveled across the stars with others, but now he lived mostly alone in a small metal shelter on the edge of the Sarai village. The Sarai were the native people of this world. They were tall, with soft glowing skin and large, dark eyes that reflected the storm. Unlike Ryan, they seemed at home in the downpour. While he built roofs to keep dry, they walked freely in the rain as if it gave them strength. Sometimes, Ryan wondered if he was weaker than them. He watched the Sarai children running through puddles, laughing with voices that carried even through the storm. Their parents never scolded them, for here, rain was life. The crops grew because of it, and the rivers flowed with energy. For them, rain was a gift. For Ryan, it was a challenge. One evening, when the rain fell heavier than usual, Ryan sat inside his shelter listening to the roof echo with drops. He lit a small lamp and opened his journal, writing down thoughts like he always did. He wrote about Earth, about blue skies and sunlight, about dry roads and warm air. He missed those things more than he expected. The rain outside felt endless, and sometimes he wondered if he had made a mistake leaving his old world. But in his heart, he knew he could not turn back. He had chosen this new life. The Sarai had accepted his presence, even if they did not fully understand him. Some looked at him with curiosity, others with polite silence. He tried to join their markets, to learn their ways, but he always felt the rain marked him as different. His steps were heavy in the mud, while theirs were light and graceful. The days passed slowly, and still the rain fell. Each drop seemed to ask him the same question: can you belong here? One morning, Ryan decided to walk beyond the village. He wore his long coat and boots, holding a small bag with tools. The forest beyond the settlement was alive with water. Trees dripped endlessly, roots twisted through mud, and rivers carved new paths every day. He liked the forest because it made him feel less lonely. The sound of rain on leaves was softer than on metal, almost like music. As he walked, he thought about survival. Humans were known for adapting. Back on Earth, his ancestors had faced deserts, mountains, storms, and still they had lived. Perhaps he too could learn to live with the rain, not against it. Hours later, he sat on a rock beside a rushing stream, watching the water turn white as it leapt over stones. His clothes were wet, but he no longer cared. The rain was part of him now. Closing his eyes, he breathed deeply. For the first time in weeks, he felt calm. When he returned to the village, the Sarai were gathering near the central square. They carried baskets of fruit and fish, their voices rising above the storm. Ryan stood at the edge, unsure whether to join. Then, one of the elders looked at him and nodded gently, as if inviting him closer. Ryan stepped forward. The Sarai did not smile the way humans did, but their eyes held warmth. They welcomed him with quiet respect, offering him a piece of fruit shaped like a silver pear. He accepted it, bowing his head in thanks. That night, lying in his shelter, Ryan thought about the village. Perhaps the rain was not here to test him. Perhaps it was here to teach him. He realized that every drop carried meaning: patience, persistence, and life. Still, deep inside, he felt a question growing stronger. Why did this world never see the sun? Why did the rain never pause? The Sarai seemed to accept it without doubt, but Ryan could not. He wanted to know the reason. And somewhere in the endless storm, he sensed that an answer was waiting for him. The rain fell harder that morning, as if the sky itself wanted to wash the land clean. Ryan woke early, his shelter filled with the steady sound of drops drumming against the roof. He sat up, rubbed his eyes, and sighed. Another day of wet clothes, another day of heavy boots sinking into mud. Yet something inside him told him not to stay indoors. He packed his small bag with tools and food, then stepped out into the storm. The village was already awake. The sarai moved through the streets with ease, carrying baskets balanced on their shoulders. Their long hair stuck to their glowing skin, but they did not seem to notice the rain at all. For them, this weather was normal. For Ryan, it still felt like a weight pressing down on him. He walked beyond the market and followed a muddy trail that led into the forest. He wanted quiet, and the forest always gave it to him. The sound of rain on leaves was softer here, less harsh than on the rooftops. He moved slowly, stopping now and then to study the strange plants. Many of them glowed faintly, like drops of light hidden beneath green leaves. The world felt alive in a way Earth never had. As he bent down to examine a flower, he suddenly heard footsteps splashing nearby. Ryan froze. It was unusual for the sarai to walk this deep into the woods. Turning, he saw a figure moving gracefully through the rain. She was sarai, taller than him, her eyes dark and reflective like pools of water. She stopped when she noticed him. For a moment, they only stared at each other, the rain falling between them like a curtain. Then she tilted her head, curiosity in her gaze. "You are far from the village," she said in a calm voice. Ryan straightened, feeling awkward. "I like the forest. It feels quiet here." The sarai woman stepped closer, her movements smooth and light. Even in the mud, her feet barely sank. She looked at him carefully, as if trying to understand his shape, his clothes, his presence. "You do not belong to the storm," she said softly. "And yet, you walk in it." "I try," Ryan admitted. "But it's not easy. The rain is heavy for me." She smiled faintly. "For us, the rain is life. For you, it seems like burden." He nodded, a little embarrassed. "Maybe. Where I come from, rain comes and goes. We wait for the sun. Here, the sun never comes." The sarai woman touched a tree trunk, letting the water run down her hand. "The sun is only a story here. We live in the rhythm of the storm." She paused, then looked at him with interest. "What is your name?" "Ryan," he said. "I am Nira," she replied. The name sounded gentle, carried by the sound of rain. Ryan felt a small sense of comfort speaking it aloud. They began to walk together, following the same path through the forest. At first, their steps were quiet, but slowly conversation grew between them. Nira asked about his world, about Earth. She wanted to know how it felt to see the sky without clouds, how it felt to stand in sunlight. Ryan tried to explain. "It is warm. It feels like a hand touching your skin. It gives light, and the world shines. Flowers open because of it, people smile because of it. The sun makes you feel alive." Nero listened carefully, her dark eyes reflecting the storm. "Strange," she whispered. "Here, the rain is the hand on our skin. It is the gift that makes the land alive." For the first time, Ryan smiled in the rain. "Maybe your rain is like our sun," he said. They walked farther, and Nira showed him how her people moved in the storm. She explained how to balance steps on slippery stones, how to use the rhythm of falling drops to keep focus, and how to read the rivers when they swelled. She walked lightly, almost like a dancer, and Ryan tried to copy her movements. At first, he stumbled, but she laughed kindly and guided him. "You are heavy," she teased, "but you are learning." Her laughter was soft, and for Ryan it was the first time the rain felt less cruel. He realized he had never walked beside a Sarai before. Always he had kept a distance, unsure if they truly accepted him. But here, in the forest, it was different. Hours passed, though it was hard to measure time under the gray sky. When they reached a small stream, they sat together on a stone. The water rushed past, carrying leaves and branches. Nira dipped her hand into the flow, then looked at him. "You wonder why the rain never ends," she said. Ryan was surprised. "How did you know?" "Your eyes," she replied. "They always search the sky, as if waiting for something hidden." He nodded slowly. "I can't stop asking myself. Why is it always raining? Why no sun, no change? There must be a reason." Nira was quiet for a long time. Then she said, "Our people do not question. We accept. But maybe an answer exists. Maybe it waits, like you said." Ryan looked at her, feeling something stir inside him. For the first time, he did not feel alone in his curiosity. Nira was different from the others. She did not laugh at his questions. She did not call him weak for fearing the storm. Instead, she listened. As the rain fell around them, a bond began to form. Ryan did not fully understand it yet, but he knew this meeting would change the path of his life on this world. The endless storm no longer felt like a wall. It felt like the beginning of a journey. The days after Ryan's meeting with Nira felt different. Before, he walked through the storm alone, always fighting against the weight of the rain. Now, he found himself waiting for the moments when he could walk beside her. She seemed to carry a part of the storm inside her, and when she was near, the rain no longer felt like an enemy. One morning, Ryan stood at the edge of the forest, watching the river that ran past the village. The water was high, swollen by the endless rain, and its surface shone like silver. He held a small tool in his hand, something he had built from scrap metal. It was a simple hook to catch fish. He wondered if it would work here. "Your hands are always busy," Nira's voice said behind him. Ryan turned and smiled slightly. "Humans like to build. When something is missing, we make it." Nira stepped closer, her dark eyes full of interest. She picked up the tool and studied it. "We fish with nets, but this is clever. You build from nothing." Ryan shrugged. "It's how my people survived storms, deserts, mountains. We used our hands and minds." Nira nodded slowly, as if understanding something about him for the first time. "Show me," she said. So they walked together to the riverbank. Ryan tied the hook to a line and dropped it into the water. The rain made ripples on the surface, but he waited patiently. Nira watched closely, silent, her long hair sticking to her glowing skin. Minutes later, the line jerked. Ryan pulled, and a silver fish splashed out of the water. Nira's eyes widened. "You caught it with only that? Without a net?" Ryan laughed softly. "Yes. It may be slower, but it works. Sometimes patience is stronger than force." She reached out, touching the fish carefully before placing it back into the river. "Your way is different, but not wrong," she said. That day was the beginning of their shared journey. Over the next weeks, they walked often through the forests and rivers. Nira taught Ryan how to move lightly through mud, how to hear the rhythm of the storm in his steps. She showed him plants that held sweet water, and roots that glowed softly at night to light the path. In return, Ryan taught her how to shape tools from stone and metal, how to build small shelters that resisted the rain, and how to catch food with patience rather than force. The Sarai had lived with the rain for generations, but they had never thought to change their ways. Ryan, being human, could not help but imagine new paths. "You always try to change things," Nira said one day as they sat under the wide leaves of a tree. Ryan smiled. "Maybe. For us, life was always about change. If the land was dry, we made canals. If the cold was strong, we made fire. We survive because we adapt. Nira thought about this for a long time. Perhaps that is why the rain has not broken you, even though it weighs on you. You are not like us, but you learn. Ryan looked at her, and for a moment the storm seemed softer. And I learn because you help me, he said. Nira's eyes met his, calm and deep, and she said nothing more. One evening, the two of them reached a hill above the village. From there, they could see the endless forest stretching out, rivers glowing faintly in the dim light. The rain fell steadily, but Ryan no longer covered his head with his coat. He let it fall on him, cool and clean. Nira pointed to the horizon. Beyond those forests is land where our people rarely go. They say the storms there are stronger, the rivers wilder. It is a place of fear. Ryan listened carefully. And what do you think? I think fear is not always truth, she said. Sometimes, it is only a story told too many times. Her words stirred something inside him. For years, he had carried questions. Why was the rain eternal? Why had the sun never broken through? Perhaps the answer lay beyond those forests. Perhaps the truth waited where no one dared to go. He looked at Nira and said, "Would you go there, if I went?" She hesitated only a moment before replying, "If you walk into the storm, I will walk beside you." The promise hung in the air, as steady as the falling rain. From that day, their bond grew stronger. The Sarai of the village began to notice. Some watched with curiosity, others with quiet disapproval. They whispered among themselves that Nira spent too much time with the outsider, that she was forgetting her people's ways. But Nira paid them no mind. She walked her own path. Ryan, too, felt the change inside him. He no longer saw himself as a stranger in the storm. With Nira at his side, he began to believe he could belong here. Together, they were weaving something new, a bridge between human strength and Sarai grace. At night, lying awake in his shelter, Ryan thought about the future. He thought about the machine-like sound he had once heard deep in the forest, hidden beneath the rain. He thought about the question that haunted him, why does the rain never end? He knew one thing for certain, he would not face the answer alone. Nira had chosen to share the journey. And together, they would uncover what the endless storm was hiding. The storm arrived without warning. One night, the rain grew heavier than Ryan had ever seen. It was no longer a steady curtain, it was a flood falling from the sky. The roofs of the village shook, the rivers swelled into furious torrents, and trees bent under the force of the wind. Even the Sarai, who usually walked calmly through the storm, hurried to strengthen their shelters and tie down their boats. Ryan stood at the doorway of his small metal home, staring at the black sky. Lightning flashed, turning the world white for an instant, and thunder followed, rolling across the land like a giant's drum. His heart beat faster. He had seen storms before, but nothing like this. In the morning, the village was half drowned. Water filled the paths, carrying broken branches and pieces of roofs. The Sarai gathered in the square, their faces tight with fear. For the first time, Ryan saw worry in their eyes. "This is no ordinary storm," one elder said. "The sky is angry." The villagers nodded, whispering words of fear. Some said the endless rain had finally turned against them, that they were being punished. Ryan listened, his mind turning. He did not believe in anger from the sky. To him, storms were part of nature, not punishment. Yet this one was too strong, too sudden. Something was wrong. He looked for Nira and found her standing near the river, watching the water rise. Her hair was plastered to her glowing skin, but her gaze was steady. "You see it too," she said quietly as he approached. Ryan nodded. "This storm, it feels different. It feels unnatural." Nira turned to him. "My people say it is fate. They say we must endure. But I cannot accept that. I want to know why the sky grows heavier every year. Her words matched his own thoughts. For weeks, he had wondered about the endless rain. Now the storm gave him a new fear that the world itself might break if they did nothing. Together, they decided to act. That evening, they left the village, carrying only what they needed. The storm still roared, but Nira guided him through the flooded forest with calm steps. Her eyes seemed to read the rivers, knowing where it was safe to walk. Ryan followed, using the strength of his body and the tools he carried to cut paths through branches and vines. Hours passed, and the rain did not ease. The ground shook under the force of water rushing downhill. They stopped under a wide rock ledge for shelter. Ryan's clothes were soaked, his muscles aching, but his mind burned with determination. "We cannot just accept the storm," he said firmly. "Something is making it worse. I can feel it." Nira sat across from him, her eyes reflecting the small lamp he lit. "Our people believe questions are dangerous. But maybe questions are the only way forward." Ryan met her gaze. "If we do nothing, the storm will destroy the village. We must search deeper, beyond the forests, beyond what your people know." For a moment, silence filled the space between them, broken only by the steady roar of rain. Then Nira said softly, "I will walk with you, even if it leads us into darkness." The next morning, they continued. The forest had changed. Rivers had broken their banks, and new streams carved across the land. Fallen trees blocked their path, and the air carried the sharp smell of wet earth. Ryan used his tools to clear branches, while Nero led him across hidden paths only the Sarai knew. At midday, they climbed a ridge. From the top, they could see the horizon. Ryan stopped, breathless, as he stared. Far in the distance, the clouds were twisting unnaturally, as if pulled into a spiral. Lightning flashed again and again in the same place, painting the sky with white cracks. The storm was not random, it had a heart, a center. Nira followed his gaze. "The storm grows from there," she whispered. "Always from there. Our elders forbid us to go near." Ryan clenched his fists. "Then that is where we must go." They walked for hours toward the strange horizon. As they moved, Ryan's thoughts grew heavy. He remembered Earth, where storms passed and skies cleared. Here, there was no rest, only endless water. His body was tired, but his spirit pushed him forward. Humans had survived by asking questions, by searching for answers. He could not accept fear as truth. At night, they stopped beside a glowing tree. Its roots shone faintly, lighting the ground. They shared food fruit Nira had gathered, dried fish Ryan carried. The rain continued, but they no longer flinched at its touch. Nero looked at him across the dim light. "Why do you fight so hard against what is?" Ryan thought for a long time. "Because if something is broken, I cannot ignore it. If the rain is endless because it must be, I will accept it. But if it is endless because something made it so, then I must know. And maybe I must try to change it." Her eyes softened. "You carry the storm inside you," she said. "But it is not a storm of water. It is a storm of will." Her words stayed with him long after she closed her eyes to rest. The journey was only beginning, but already Ryan knew one thing: this storm was not fate. It was a mystery. And mysteries, he believed, were meant to be solved. As the rain fell endlessly around them, he promised himself he would find the truth no matter what waited at the heart of the storm. For 3 days and nights, Ryan and Nira pushed deeper into the storm. The forest thickened, the rivers grew wild, and the ground shook with the weight of rushing water. Yet they did not turn back. Every step carried them closer to the strange spiral of clouds they had seen on the horizon. By the 4th day, they reached a valley unlike any other. The trees here bent unnaturally, all leaning toward the center. The rain fell harder, striking the ground like stones, and the thunder never stopped. Ryan shielded his eyes, trying to see through the mist. "There," Nero whispered, pointing. At first, Ryan thought it was only a dark shape half buried in the mud. But as lightning flashed, he saw it more clearly, a structure of metal, old and broken, yet still humming faintly. It rose from the earth like the bones of some giant machine. Pipes stretched out like roots, vanishing into the ground. Ryan's heart raced. "It's not natural," he said. "This is not part of your world. Someone built this." Nira stared in silence, her eyes wide. "It has always been here," she said softly. "Our people tell no stories of its making. We feared it and kept away." They stepped closer, mud sucking at their boots. The machine was massive, its surface covered with moss and vines, but beneath the growth, the metal still glowed faintly with strange lights. Ryan touched it with his hand. The surface was cold, yet alive with energy. "This is the source," he whispered. "This is why the rain never ends." They circled the machine, searching for a way inside. At last, they found a cracked opening, half hidden under roots. With effort, Ryan pulled the vines aside and pushed through. Nira followed, the glow of her skin casting soft light on the walls. Inside, the air was heavy with dampness, and water dripped from the ceiling. Strange symbols covered the walls, symbols neither of them understood. The machines inside still moved slowly, gears turning, lights blinking weakly, as if the storm itself was their heartbeat. Ryan studied the panels with careful eyes. He had seen many machines in his life, but none as ancient or alien as this. Still, he recognized patterns, power sources, control lines, circuits. His human mind worked quickly, piecing the puzzle together. "This machine controls the weather," he said at last. "It was built to keep the rain falling." Nero looked at him, shocked. "Why? Why would anyone want endless storms?" Ryan shook his head. "I don't know. Maybe the builders wanted this world green and full of water. Maybe they left and never returned. But the machine has been running too long. It's unstable now." As if to prove his words, the ground shook beneath their feet. A loud groan echoed through the structure, and sparks burst from one of the panels. The storm outside roared louder, lightning cracking again and again above the valley. "This storm is not nature," Nero whispered. "It is a cage." They explored deeper into the structure, stepping carefully over broken platforms and flooded halls. In one chamber, they found a tall column of glass filled with rushing water. Lights pulsed through it like veins. The machine was pulling water from deep underground and hurling it into the sky. Ryan placed his hand on the glass, feeling the vibration. "If this breaks, the whole valley will flood. The village will be lost." Nira touched his shoulder. "Can you stop it?" Ryan's face tightened. "I don't know. But I can try to repair it, or shut it down. It will be dangerous. If I make one mistake, the machine might release all its energy at once." Nira's gaze was steady. "Then you will not face it alone. We came together. We act together." Her words gave him strength. That night, they rested inside the broken machine, listening to the endless hum of gears. Ryan studied the panels by the light of his lamp, sketching symbols into his journal. His mind worked through the problem, how to calm the storm without destroying the balance of the land. He knew the rain gave life, but this was too much. There had to be a way to bring peace without bringing ruin. Nira sat beside him, watching quietly. After a while, she spoke. "My people believe the storm is fate. If they learn it was made by a machine, they will not believe. They will be afraid." Ryan looked up from his notes. "Then maybe they need proof. Maybe they need to see with their own eyes." Nira shook her head gently. "They will not listen to me. But they might listen to you. You are different. You are human. You do not fear questions." Ryan thought about her words. On Earth, humans had always asked questions. They had challenged storms, mountains, oceans. Perhaps that was why he had been brought here to question the endless rain when no one else dared. The storm outside shook the walls again. Water poured through cracks, and sparks danced along the metal floor. Ryan closed his journal and stood. "This machine is breaking apart," he said. "If we don't act soon, the whole world could drown." Nira rose with him. Her eyes glowed faintly in the dark, calm even in the chaos. "Then tomorrow, we face its heart." Ryan looked at her, and for the first time in many years, he felt hope burning in his chest. The storm was not fate. It was not punishment. It was a puzzle. And puzzles could be solved. Together, they would step into the heart of the rain and uncover the truth of the hidden machine. The next morning, the storm was worse than ever. The valley shook as if the earth itself was restless. Lightning split the sky, striking the hills around them, and the endless roar of rain grew almost deafening. Ryan and Nira stood at the entrance of the machine, staring into its dark heart. Ryan's face was pale but determined. "If we wait any longer, this machine will collapse. The storm will grow until it swallows everything." Nira nodded. Her eyes held no fear, only steady calm. "Then we act now." They stepped inside. The walls hummed with unstable energy, lights flashing wildly across panels half buried under roots and moss. Water leaked through cracks, dripping onto the metal floor. The whole place felt alive, as if the storm itself had a body here. Ryan moved carefully, his eyes racing across the controls. He traced broken wires, cracked glass, and glowing symbols. The machine was complex, but his human mind worked with stubborn focus. He had repaired ships, engines, and shelters before. This was larger, older, stranger, but still a machine. "I think the core is there," he said, pointing toward a tall chamber at the center. It pulsed with light, a rhythm that matched the beating of the storm outside. "That's where the power flows." Nira followed him to the chamber. The glass surface glowed faintly, water rushing within like a living river. Every pulse sent another surge of rain into the sky. "Can you calm it?" she asked. Ryan took a deep breath. "Maybe. I see 3 options." He held up his fingers as he spoke. 1. I shut it down completely. That would stop the storm, but it could also kill the rivers and forests. The land may dry and die. 2. I repair the broken systems and let the machine run safely again, but that means trusting something I barely understand. Or 3, I change it, adjust it to give balance. Not endless rain, not empty skies, but something between. Nira studied him, the stormlight reflecting in her eyes. "Each choice carries danger." "Yes," Ryan said quietly. "And once I choose, there's no turning back." They stood in silence, the sound of rushing water filling the chamber. Ryan's heart pounded. His human spirit told him to act, to fight, to solve. But he also knew this world was not his alone. It belonged to Nira and her people. He looked at her. "What do you want?" he asked. Nira placed her hand on the glowing glass. "The rain is life to us. Without it, we would be lost. But too much, and we drown. My people never questioned, never sought balance. But you see another path. Maybe that is the answer." Ryan felt the weight of her words. His choice was not only about machines. It was about trust in himself, and trust in the bond they had built. "Finally," he said, "we choose the third path. Balance." He set to work, his hands moving quickly, guided by instinct and determination. He opened panels, rewired broken circuits, and shifted the flow of energy. Sparks burst, and once the floor shook so violently he almost fell. But Nira was there, steadying him, her hand firm on his arm. "You are not alone," she said. Her words gave him strength. He pressed forward, even as the machine groaned like a wounded beast. He rerouted power, slowed the pulsing core, and adjusted the flow of water within. Each change felt like a battle against the storm itself. At last, he reached the final switch. His hand trembled. "If this fails," he began. Nira stopped him with a calm voice. "Then we face the storm together." Ryan nodded, his resolve hardening. He pulled the switch. For a moment, nothing happened. Then, slowly, the pulsing light inside the glass chamber began to change. It dimmed, not dying but softening. The rush of water slowed, its rhythm gentler. The walls no longer shook. Outside, the storm began to ease. The thunder grew distant, the lightning faded, and the endless roar softened into steady rainfall. The valley no longer trembled under its weight. Ryan fell back, breathing hard. Sweat mixed with the rain on his skin. "It worked," he whispered. "The machine listens." Nira stepped beside him, her eyes wide with wonder. "You have done what no one believed possible. You gave the storm balance." He looked at her, exhausted but smiling faintly. "Not me. Us." They walked out of the machine together. The sky above was still gray, but the rain was no longer a flood. It fell gently, like a curtain of silver threads. The rivers calmed, and the wind grew quiet. For the first time since Ryan had arrived on this world, the storm felt peaceful. The Sarai would soon see the change. Some might fear it, others might celebrate. But Ryan knew the truth: this world no longer lived under a cage of endless water. It had been freed to breathe again. Nero looked at him with a soft smile. "You carry the spirit of change. My people will not understand at first. But one day, they will see." Ryan met her gaze, his heart steady despite the rain around them. "We faced the storm together. That is what matters." And as the gentle rain washed over them, he felt something deep within, an answer not only to the mystery of the storm, but to his own place in this world. He was no longer an outsider. He was part of the rain, part of the balance, and part of something greater than himself. The valley was quiet in a way it had never been before. The storm, once endless and wild, now fell as soft rain, gentle enough for the earth to breathe. The trees glistened with drops of water, and the rivers flowed calmly instead of roaring like beasts. The sky was still gray, but it no longer felt heavy. It felt alive. Ryan stood on a hill, looking across the land. He could see far into the distance where villages of the Sarai waited. Smoke from their cooking fires rose into the misty air. He knew news of the storm's change would reach them soon. Some would rejoice, some would fear, and others would not understand at all. Beside him stood Nira, silent, her eyes fixed on the sky. The rain slipped down her face, but she did not wipe it away. She looked calm, almost at peace. "This world feels new," Ryan said softly. Nira nodded. "Yes. But it is not the world alone that has changed. We have changed with it." Later that day, groups of Sarai came to the valley. They carried torches, their cloaks soaked by the rain. At first, they looked upon the quiet storm with suspicion. They whispered among themselves, unsure if this gentleness was a blessing or a curse. An elder stepped forward, his face lined with age and wisdom. He stared at Ryan for a long moment before speaking. "You touched the machine. You changed the sky. Why?" Ryan stood tall, though his heart beat fast. "Because endless storm is not life. It is a prison. The land needs balance, and so do the people." The elder frowned. "Balance is dangerous. Too much sun, and the rivers dry. Too little rain, and crops fail. You risk all." Nira moved forward then. She bowed her head respectfully but spoke with firm voice. "He risked nothing for himself. He risked everything for us. Without his choice, the storm would have grown until it destroyed all. He brought calm, not ruin. The crowd murmured. Some still looked unsure, but others nodded slowly. The elder studied Nira, then Ryan, and finally the softened sky. He sighed deeply. Perhaps the storm itself wished for change, and it chose him to carry it. That evening, the Sarai gathered in a circle around a great fire, though the rain still fell softly. They listened to Nira and Ryan speak of what had happened inside the machine. Ryan spoke simply, not as a conqueror or savior, but as a man who had worked with his hands and his heart. I did not come here to rule your skies, he said. I came here to survive. But along the way, I found something greater. I found trust. I found hope. And I found that no storm is too strong when two people face it together. The people were silent, moved by his words. Slowly, respect grew in their eyes. As days passed, life in the valley changed. Crops began to grow stronger, rivers became easier to cross, and children could play outside without fear of floods. The Sarai learned that the rain could still be their friend, only now it did not drown them. They called the new weather the gentle season. Ryan became a part of their lives. He helped rebuild homes damaged by past floods. He showed them how to make tools from old metal parts of the machine. And though he was human and they were Sarai, no one questioned his place among them anymore. But the bond between Ryan and Nero was something deeper. When others saw them walking together through the rain, they whispered quietly, not with doubt but with quiet respect. It was clear that something unspoken tied them together. One evening, under the soft rain and fading light, Nira spoke the words she had carried in her heart. When you first came, I thought you would not last. You were only one man against a storm. But I was wrong. You are not just one man, you are the spirit that walks with the rain. Ryan looked at her with a faint smile. And you are the reason I did not give up. Without you, I would have been washed away long ago. Their words were simple, but their meaning was vast. The storm had brought them together, and now the calm kept them bound. Seasons passed. The rain continued in gentle cycles, and the valley grew more beautiful than ever before. Flowers bloomed in colors brighter than the Sarai had seen in generations. Birds returned to sing in the trees. Life thrived under the new balance. The machine still stood, silent but alive, its power steady. Sometimes Ryan visited it, checking its systems, making sure it remained stable. Each time, Nero walked with him, and together they touched the glowing surface. It was no longer a cage or a danger, it was a reminder of the storm they had faced. One day, as they stood together at the machine, Nira asked, "Do you ever wish to return to your old world?" Ryan thought for a long moment. "I used to. I thought my home was gone, that I was lost here. But now, this world is my home. You are my home." Nira's smile was soft, warmed by the rain. "Then the storm has truly given us a gift." Years later, the story of Ryan and Nira was told to the children of the Sarai. They learned that once there had been endless storms, and that balance was brought by a human who walked among them. But more importantly, they learned that courage was not only in fighting, but in choosing peace. Whenever the rain fell gently, parents would point to the sky and say, "This is the rain of balance. This is the rain of Ryan and Nira." And somewhere, on the hill where it all began, two figures could still be seen walking side by side in the rain, never apart, always together, their bond lasting as long as the sky itself.